Tibbs turns to vigilante justice, and the chief must stop him before another victim falls in the heat of the night. Then, the famous New York Godfather case.
They don't play by the rules. Why should we?
Because that's our job.
Winning means crossing the line of law and order after Heat of the Night, NBC Tuesday.
Today's golf coverage has been locally sponsored by New York Telephone, a NYNEX company.
Tony Guida takes you inside the violent world of car thieves. Find out what you can do to protect your car. Hot Cars, Easy Money, starting Monday at 5 and 11 on News 4 New York.
I am holding something green and powerful, and it's going to change your weekend.
What, lawn clippers?
I'm picking you up at 4 o'clock.
So where are you taking me?
Reservation for the Newtons?
Yes, ma'am. What else have you got planned?
The whole weekend.
Only one card gives you the privileges of membership. The American Express card. Don't leave home without it.
I was there in the Army, and it's considered very rude to walk around in public.
Don't order zucchini. It's considered sacred.
For sensible information about going abroad, write to Americans Abroad, Pueblo, Colorado.
The real-life pilot who caught a murderer, tonight at 11 on News 4 New York.
As airstrikes against Iraq continue, Saddam Hussein voices new defiance. As the president's top military advisors return home from Saudi Arabia, George Bush faces a big decision.
When we begin the next stage or next phases of the campaign, that it will indeed be decisive. There's no doubt in my mind.
This NBC Nightly News, reported by Garrick Utley. Tonight, America at war.
Good evening. On the day Saddam Hussein was talking defiance, and George Bush was facing the question what to do next in the war. The Iraqi president spoke on Baghdad radio. It was a sort of a pep talk, praising Iraqis for what he called their strength and patience in enduring the continuing aerial attacks. Here is some of what he said in his radio address. Saddam Hussein said, "We have entered the 4th week of this aggression, and with every day and every hour, the Iraqis hold more strongly to what they believe in." And he added, George Bush lost credibility when he found that the financial, economic, and military force of America is not enough to confront Iraq. President Bush reacted to Saddam Hussein's speech when he returned this afternoon from Camp David to the White House.
I didn't hear a word about withdrawing from Kuwait. That's what the whole world is wanting to hear. So business goes on, and I'll be talking to Cheney and Powell tomorrow. War's going on schedule. Going very, very well.
The business that does go on is, of course, the war. Defense Secretary Cheney and General Colin Powell are returning today to Washington. Tomorrow they will brief the president on what they learned in their meetings in Saudi Arabia and also on what they recommend now. In Saudi Arabia, here's correspondent Mike Betcher.
Hey, guys.
Thank you. Take care.
Secretary Cheney and General Powell said they felt good about how the war was proceeding, but they weren't saying whether their short visit to Saudi Arabia had given them a gut feeling for when the ground war should begin. During a pep talk to a stealth fighter squadron, General Powell promised victory, but gave few details about how it would be achieved.
We want to get this over with. We want to get it over with as quickly as we possibly can in a way that everybody will know who won, and in a way that minimizes the casualties to not only our forces, but the coalition forces.
A victory with limited casualties would require a prolonged air war targeted at well-dug-in Iraqi armor, artillery, and troops, and a delay in the start of a ground offensive. That strategy was being followed again today. In this sortie, a British squadron refuels over hostile territory. A burning refinery can be seen below. But the air campaign is not conducted without a cost. A U.S. Marine Harrier jump jet was reported shot down. Its pilot is missing.
When we get upstairs.
Before he departed Saudi Arabia, Secretary Cheney once again raised the possibility of a limited ground attack designed to draw Iraqi units out of their shelters.
It might be, for example, that you could make the Air Force even more effective than it's already been if you used your ground forces or your amphibious forces to force him to move out of the positions he's currently in.
But Cheney indicated that the time will come when Allied commanders must use all of their resources, including soldiers and Marines.
Some have suggested that we could continue the air campaign for 6 months or 12 months or indefinitely. I think there's a limit to how long we can do that usefully.
Cheney and Powell left Saudi Arabia closely guarding the secret of their recommendation to the president. When they departed, Desert Storm Commander Norman Schwarzkopf signaled his assessment of the war, a message which will be carried back to the president.
Late today, we received word about 2 Americans who were captured during an early engagement in this war. An Iraqi prisoner of war has told his American captors that he was part of an Iraqi unit that transported 2 American POWs, a man and a woman, from Kuwait to the southern Iraqi city of Basra. From his description, Americans believe that the description fits that of Specialist Melissa Neely and Specialist David Lockett, both in the U.S. Army, who were captured near Khafji, Saudi Arabia, during an Iraqi attack on that city. Garrick?
Mike Betcher in Saudi Arabia, thank you. The fact that a ground war has not started does not mean there is no action on the ground there. American troops at the front are constantly monitoring the Iraqi forces against them. Sometimes there are even armed skirmishes. NBC's Brad Willis is the pool reporter for the U.S. television networks. He went up front with the U.S. Marines.
Now we are observing some Iraqis at target position 1 at this time.
U.S. Marines on the Saudi border, looking through high-powered lenses that bring them face-to-face with the enemy. This is Kuwait, and in the desert you're seeing, Iraqi soldiers are dug in. This team is part of Anglico, Air and Naval Gunfire Liaison Company, working in the most dangerous of zones, out in front of coalition forces, just a few hundred meters of land between them and territory held by the forces of Saddam Hussein.
We've been seeing them in at least groups of like 6 or 8 moving around out there, so that would be...
Today, they spot enemy activity. Iraqis in a group of buildings the U.S. area has asked not be shown for reasons of operational security. Anglico works with Saudi soldiers, and a decision on what to do takes several hours to pass through language barriers and the chain of command.
They are going to shoot it. 1960. 1960? Yeah.
By mid-afternoon, Saudi officers arrive, and the attack begins. The first artillery rounds fall short, then hit near or on target.
But there was a secondary explosion, and there is something burning right behind the target, over.
Citing a secondary explosion means a target might be hit. The Saudi commander, whose artillery has done the shooting, claims success.
We are succeed. We have seen some secondary explosion.
The building this Anglico team is working in is visible proof of just how dangerous this mission is. Iraqi forces have already overrun this position once and could do so again at any time. And following today's attack, they believe it's only a matter of time before the Iraqis strike back. But for now, Anglico has prevailed with Operation Desert Storm. Brad Willis on the Saudi-Kuwaiti border.
And we'll be right back.
What can a Pitney Bowes mailing system do for your business? Watch this. Seen enough.
What pain reliever do doctors recommend most for minor arthritis pain, backaches, sprains and strains, and menstrual pain? Advil. Gentler to your stomach than aspirin, safe, trusted, doctor recommended. Advil, advanced medicine for pain.
It begins at dawn. They've come for you, and they want what you have. It's your bed, your Serta Perfect Sleeper. It's the most comfortable spot in the house. It's why people are saying, I want my Serta.
Now what's happening on the other side in the war? One of the main targets of the Allied airstrikes is the city of Basra, just north of Kuwait. Today, BBC correspondent Jeremy Bowen returned from there to Baghdad, and this afternoon we talked about what's happened in the city. Jeremy Bowen, what impressions did you bring back with you from your visit to Basra?
I came from a city, Garrick, which has been, they say, bombed more heavily in the last couple of weeks than it ever was during the 8 years of fighting between Iraq and Iran. There's considerable damage to civilian, industrial, and military targets. I can't go into any more detail than that on the military side. On the civilian side, I went to residential districts which have very serious damage. I saw craters which were maybe 40 feet across in one area where houses were. And I also went to the hospital and saw a number of injured civilians.
Is there any indication that some of these civilian areas which were hit were also nearby military or industrial targets? And that may explain why they were hit too.
I think you can conclude that as well without me going into any more detail than that. I can tell you that a number of them were near various industrial targets, but I think the Iraqis who are with us at the moment wouldn't want us to say any more than that at present.
I understand the difficult, not to say delicate, position you are in. In terms of the will to resist among the people there in Basra, the ones that you were able to talk with, what were they telling you?
I can tell you that some civilians who I saw during an air raid, the sirens went off and they didn't bat an eyelid. One of them just lit a cigarette. They've been through a large number of raids now, and they're pretty used to war, and I think they're pretty tough. Having said that, it really is impossible, given the limited access and highly supervised access that we had, to tell you with any accuracy what the precise mood of the people there is. Garrick?
As you indicated, Basra is a key target for the American air attacks. You're now back in the capital city of Baghdad. What's been happening there?
In Baghdad tonight, earlier on, there was a minor air raid. We heard a few thumps in the distance, and a small amount of tracer went into the air. I think while we were in Basra, they had some bigger raids. At the moment, though, I'm sitting outside the Al Rashid Hotel in Baghdad. It's a very cold night, a very bright night. The stars are shining brightly, and there's no sign of any air activity at all.
All right, Jeremy Bowen in Baghdad, thank you very much. And we'll have more news in just a moment.
You're on your way. The world is opening its doors.
When I was growing up, Mom and Dad taught me that we've only got one planet and we'd better take care of it. Now I'm about to join a company that's committed itself to helping people preserve our wildlife and to finding new ways to protect the Earth.
Yes, you can make a difference in what tomorrow brings.
Can't wait.
'Cause God lets you do great things.
Hey, the boots come a long way for one day.
Without a hitch.
That's not what I hear.
What?
At the airport, someone swiped your wallet.
Oh, right.
What about your client dinner tonight? You know, you're sitting on the biggest order of the year.
Is Mr. Moore here?
I'm Chris Moore.
I've got you a replacement card in cash from American Express.
Thanks a lot. Yeah.
How did you do that?
Only one card gives you the privileges of membership. The American Express card. Don't leave home without it.
This is how the roomy new Cutlass Supreme SL looks after traveling 300 highway miles on just 10 gallons of gas. And this is how Honda Accord looks after the same challenge. Well, if it hadn't run out of gas 20 miles back, you'd see that it's smaller and it's blue. Next trip, Dad, it's yours. Who says you can't get great gas mileage in a roomy, comfortable car? Cutlass Supreme is one car that does it all and does it right.
This is the new generation of old.
In Israel today, a decision to relax the curfew that's been in effect in the occupied Arab territory since the start of the war. Here's Martin Fletcher.
It's cold, damp, and humiliating. Another identity check for Palestinians. But it's the best news these men have had in more than 3 weeks. Israel today opened the door just wide enough for 1,500 Palestinians to come to work in Israel. After a total curfew locked 1.75 million Palestinians in their homes since the Gulf War began.
I am an orange packer. I need to work. When the Israelis lifted the curfew so we could buy food, I couldn't. I didn't have any money.
But many Palestinians will find themselves out of work. Russian Jews, new immigrants, have taken their place.
We can't rely upon the workers from the territories because they don't come here not only because of curfews being imposed upon them, but because of their own strikes that they don't come once or twice a week.
Of about 110,000 Palestinians who leave the territories daily to work in Israel, only 40,000 have work permits. The rest will now be banned. They'll seek work at home. But there isn't any, especially in the desolate Gaza Strip. And the irony is that many of the Arab construction workers who are allowed into Israel are building new housing developments for the very Russian immigrants who are taking their jobs. When the curfew was reimposed, Israel said it would lift it gradually if there's no more trouble. and more workers will be allowed into Israel as long as no Palestinians attack Israelis. Martin Fletcher, NBC News, Tel Aviv.
And that is our report this day. I'm Garrett Utley. Good night for NBC News.
The Centers for Disease Control report 3 highly contagious flu strains, and they're spreading unchecked. Millions will be stricken. What will you do? Doctors recommend Theraflu. Theraflu is hot liquid medicine.
Who is risking his life to stop the killing on Expose right after Real Life tonight.
I'm Brian Gumbel. Monday morning and today we'll bring you up to date on all the events in the Gulf.
I'm Deborah Norville, also America's Civil Defense.
We at the Postal Service deliver over 500 million letters every working day. By using a complete address, you can take advantage of our new technology to move your mail faster than ever. Because of all the letters we deliver, there's none more important than yours.
We deliver for you. We deliver for you.
Hey, the boots come a long way for one day.
Without a hitch.
That's not what I hear.
What?
At the airport, someone swiped your wallet.
Oh, right.
What about your client dinner tonight? You know, you're sitting on the biggest order of the year.
Is Mr. Moore here?
I'm Chris Moore.
I've got you a replacement card in cash from American Express.
Thanks a lot. Yeah.
How did you do that?
Only one card gives you the privileges of membership, the American Express card. Don't leave home without it.
Voices from Israel with Gabe Pressman, Tuesday night at 6.
The following program is brought to you in living color on NBC.
It's the TV show about TV, Sunday Best, with your host, Carl Reiner. This week, daring marriage proposals by Ricky Ricardo, Ted Baxter, and Sam Malone. America's heartthrobs, the Beatles, and the USA. The best of prime time with new styles of romance. The best of last night, Saturday Night Live. Linda Ellerby with This Week in TV History. Beryl Marco with the king of cartoon theme songs. Also special guest star Anne Marie Johnson from In the Heat of the Night. Ladies and gentlemen, your host, Carl Reiner.